So today we're doing sweet potatoes. And since I do videos on everything else, I might as well do a video on my sweet potatoes. So here's what I do. I first spray them down with this. I let them soak. Some of these are already frilly, and that's because I have some homemade hand soap here that I use this fancy little brush. Let's flip you around, see if you can see in the sink, maybe. There you go. And so I put the home soap on here. We're going to move you just a hair so you can see better. And I literally scrub the sweet potato with the soap. And yes, I scrub pretty much everything and use my homemade products, you know, the household cleaner, the hand soap. I use all of this, and I clean all of my produce. And the reason I clean all my produce this way is because you never know what kind of critters are on them. When you get stuff from the store, it's not necessarily clean. And I was just always taught, you wash all of your produce before you prep it and cook it or eat it. And since we're doing sweet potatoes for the dog's dinner tonight, I figured, hey, why don't you come along and watch how I do it. So now that they're all scrubbed, I'm just going to rinse them off. This one's got a root on it. You can see the root. I took off all the roots. If they don't scrub off, then you just take them off. Otherwise, when I peel them, then I'll peel them off with the peeler. Yes, I peel the sweet potatoes. No, the dogs cannot eat sweet potato peels, but I can feed them to my worms. So there's the sweet potatoes all rinsed off. Now I'm going to get my handy dandy knife out and dice these up and find my hoity-toity big pan, which I'm going to have to look for. Oh no, I remember where I put it. I shoved it in the stove. I'll get my big pan out and I'll be back in a couple of seconds and show you how I do the rest of it. Okay, so I have my peeler. I have a bowl to put all the peels in. So I'm going to put this, I'll show you in a minute, in the sink to catch all of the sweet potato peels. I have my handy dandy pan. It's a good sized pan. And I have my handy dandy knife that I'll go ahead and I'll dice all of the sweet potatoes after I peel them. So, first thing we're going to do though, we're going to wipe down that, put the sweet potato bowl in the sink, rinse the sink quick, put the sweet potato bowl in the sink to catch the peels, wet down my sponge here, and do a quick wipe down and scrub of the cutting board. There we go. So I have a glass cutting board. There's my knife. Here's my peeler. There's the sweet potato bowl where I'm going to peel my sweet potatoes, and here's the sweet potatoes. So we'll turn you around here, and with this guy, it's a universal. You probably can't see that. With this, it's universal, so you pull it open, and I like it like, maybe. Come on now, you hooligan. Okay. I like it like this. So that's what we're going to do. Now we're going to peel the sweet potatoes. I don't know if you'll be able to see this, but we're going to show it. We're going to try anyways. You always peel away from your body. There's a noise outside. I better go check and see what it is. Okay, that's the kids coming home from school and somebody unloading some sort of machine outside. So when you peel your sweet potatoes, you're going to peel them away from you. You always peel things away from you. I try to make single swipes, and then it just falls right into the bowl. You can see the bowl's right there, and it's in the bowl. And that's all we're going to do to the whole sweet potato, is peel it, and then I'll come back and I'll show you how I dice them. And once they're diced, we'll boil them up and show you how I do it. So let me go ahead and get all of these peeled, and then I'll come back and show you how I dice them. And while I'm at it, if somebody's going to ask, what if you have the divot in the sweet potato and your slicer doesn't reach it? Well, you work smarter, not harder. So I peel them. If I can't reach it with the slicer, I will wait until after I'm done peeling them all, and when I start to chop them up to dice them, that is when I will finish peeling the parts that my peeler did not reach. So you can see this one's wobbled. Peeler's not going to reach in there, but that's okay. I'm going to peel around that, and when I get ready to cut them, as I start cutting them before I dice them, and I just come back to the sink because I'm doing this all right here in this little area. We don't have a lot of space to work with anyways, but it's convenient to do it all right here at the sink so you don't make a mess. And so I'll come back afterwards and peel it as I chop it. And that way we still get rid of the peels, because like I said, 1, I feed the worms with the peels. 2, the dogs can't have the peels. The peel is not good for a dog. So I don't give the peels to the dog. I peel them, and then I will boil them so that they're soft. They can eat them whole like this, but my girls are picky and they will if you give it to them, but they don't like to eat them hard. So I boil them so it softens them up, and then I give it to them. So, and now remember that if you do have worms, you're not going to feed your worms in your compost bin. You're not going to feed the worms regular potatoes. I do not feed my worms regular potatoes, and dogs cannot eat regular potatoes. It's not good for them. Their stomach is not like ours, and so they have a different hard time digesting some things, and some things will just give them parasites. Another reason why I wash and scrub all of my produce, even the stuff I get out of my own garden. I will bring it in and I will wash it, or I'll scrub it with the brush. Make sure it's all nice and clean. There's no pests on it, no diseases, nothing like that before I prepare it. And since the girls had cucumbers yesterday because we went to Pigeon Forge or Gatlinburg, I don't know, I get confused, they all run together. But since we went away for Ben's work holiday party yesterday, they got cucumbers, and I've done a video on the cucumbers. I don't know exactly where it's at, but it's in the list of cucumber stuff. When I started prepping and had to do videos to show a girl who was going to watch the house and watch the girls, the dogs, that is. Girls are the dogs. But I had a woman who was going to house sit for us, and she did an awesome job. But my dogs are taken care of in a specific way, so when I knew that she was able to house sit for us, I went ahead and did videos and posted them right here on this channel so she could go back and watch them and refer to them. I can also scroll through them and send them to anybody else that I get an opportunity and gets along with my dogs. Then if I need another house sitter, then I can just show them the videos, send them the videos or the links, and they can watch them and know exactly what to do. And it's so much easier than having to repeat the whole thing over and over again. And of course, that way you can visually see what I'm doing, and nobody has to doubt themselves. Gives them more confidence, gives me security, and of course anybody else who wants to do things like I do or learn from me has that opportunity. So we're almost done peeling the sweet potatoes. Yeah, you can see some of them you just can't get to. So when I get ready to chop them here in a minute, then I will go ahead and show you how I do it. So, no, I do not feed all of these sweet potatoes to the dogs at the same time. I will portion it up. Now remember, I do have 3 dogs, so they do eat quite a bit. But no, they don't get all of these sweet potatoes in one meal. I'll cook them up, I'll put some in their bowls, and then I will put some in a container and refrigerate it for a day or 2 from now. When I do sweet potatoes, you see there's a bunch of them. That's also because I'm going to probably end up saving some of those for a side dish with our dinner, either today or tomorrow. I do not let the sweet potatoes, even after being cooked, sit in the refrigerator for more than 2 or 3 days. Our refrigerator stays really cold, and most of the time we have to watch it because it will freeze our eggs. It's an old refrigerator and it's wonky, so we just gotta pay attention to it and make sure nothing freezes in there. Most everything stays good and doesn't go bad, so we don't have to worry about that because everything stays cold. Sometimes even our milk will freeze. So now that we got that part done, I'm just gonna scoot the bowl out of the way after a little while, when you're doing sweet potatoes, your hands will start to turn orange. By the time I'm done dicing them and putting them in the pot, you'll see my hands will be orange. And you're like, it washes off. The orange will not hurt you when you're doing sweet potatoes. And I'm just rinsing them off now. But your skin will absorb some of the color and it'll dye your hands. It won't leave your hands orange for a long period of time. But it's okay because your skin is your largest organ of your body. And so you're also getting the nutrients from the sweet potatoes while you're preparing them. So, this part is going to make a lot of noise. But here's my handy dandy knife. And actually, I better use the bigger one. We'll use the pumpkin knife. It's a little bit easier to work with, and it goes through the sweet potatoes better. So, here's one with that little divot. So, let's see if I can move some stuff over here on the stove. And then I'll show you what I do. There you can see. Ta-da. Alright, there's the divot. So I'm just gonna... Sometimes it's harder than others. Ugh. This one's gonna give me a hard time right off the bat. Okay, come on you. I'll just show you. Sometimes it's not so easy to cut them. And now I can't get it off of there. So I guess we'll use this other knife too. We're just gonna shove it in there and wiggle this one free. Maybe. I've never had a knife get stuck on a sweet potato. But they're not so sharpened anymore either because I don't sharpen my knives often. There we go. I guess we'll have to work it around just like I do a pumpkin this time. This one's a doozy. There we go. Now here's the part of the peel. There's the other portion of the peel. There's my pan. First we gotta peel this. So, my peel bowl. Voila, it's peeled. As for this part, you see it's easier to get to. Here's the rest of the peel. Now I can get to it as well. Voila. Okay. I'm going to spin you back around. Make you dizzy while you watch me prep the sweet potatoes. So that's one half. Here's the other half. So I just half them up. Let's see, we'll do it this way. And then I cut slices like that. Keep your hands out of your fingers out of the way. And then you're gonna line it up, and I'm gonna do the same thing. These slices I'm gonna do this way in little pieces. Like I said, this is the noisy part. And I am using a glass cutting board, but that's okay. It's not going to really matter. And then, once they're all diced up, put them in the pan. Alright, so, and this is what I do with all of them. So I'll just find a level spot here, and I chop them, try and get them fine. Sometimes they don't chop so easily. Sometimes I have to chop them separate, like they're too big and they rock. Then I'll go back and I'll stack them up here. And I'll chop them this way. The smaller you can get the pieces, the easier they are to cook and get soft. And then, of course, like I said, my dogs are spoiled. So a lot of times I won't give it to them chopped like this. I'll actually mash them up, especially if I'm planning on eating, having mashed sweet potatoes for dinner. You can do it this way. It does get a little bit more difficult. It just depends. I always chop them different. There's no specific way I chop them. I just chop them until they're completely small enough that I can stick them in the pan and cook them. So that's what we'll do with all these, and then we'll come back and I'll show them to you all diced up, because I'm sure you probably don't want to listen to all this clanking. Now, another thing you can do is, if you actually want your sweet potatoes diced instead of sliced like I'm doing, then you can, since this one was so big, what I did was I cut it into other slices. And then I can slice this in half, and then you can dice it. Which I'll show you in just a minute when I get done with this one. But I was just thinking about, well, I better show you that too, because that's one of the things that I do. Mental note, I do have some water in the pan so that my potatoes don't, see here, I just split it in half, and then what you do is cut it one way. Remember to keep your fingers out of the way. Now that you got it all cut this way, now I'm just going to do the same thing this way. And then, I'll show you. Now, you have cubes instead of long ones that look like French fries. And you can cut them at whatever thickness or what have you. I mean, there's no specifics. And with sweet potatoes, they're extremely hard. They're a lot harder than a regular potato. And me personally, I prefer my sweet potatoes to be mashed. So I cut them up here. Put them in some water, which, yes, I did put a little bit of water in that pan earlier. And I chop them up and I'll boil them till I can stick a fork in them. And then I'll take them off the heat, drain them, and mash them with a potato masher. And once they're mashed, then I give them to the dogs mashed straight, but you can also put seasonings and stuff in them, not for the dogs, but for yourself. And this one is a little bit thicker, so I'll be able to get 3 out of that. Voila. like I said, there's no specifics in how to prep a sweet potato for mashed sweet potatoes. And that's exactly what I'm doing today, is making mashed sweet potatoes. I'll feed some of it to the dogs. Some of it I will set aside for us to eat and add some butter, sour cream, salt and pepper, and that'll be for us. And then whatever's left over from that I don't make for ourselves, I'll set aside for tomorrow or the next day for the girls to eat. I try not to give them the same thing 2 days in a row, just so that they have something, their food is being changed up, and that way you're not overloading them with too much of one fruit or vegetable. So I'll go ahead and finish these up, and I'll be back. Another mental note is the smaller you cut them, the faster they're going to cook. But also, the more you're going to fit into the pan. There's still some there, so we're going to chop it like that. Then we can get to the peeler part. Peel it over the bowl here. Get off of the peeler, knucklehead. And that way you don't have any peel on it. Because now the peeler can get to it. And since that one's so small, oh, forgot a piece of peel there. There we go. Since this one's a smaller one, we'll go ahead and cut it a couple more times, and we'll dice this one up. This also depends on how much time you have. I mean, if you don't have a lot of time to prepare these things, then, you know, you're going to want to do it in the biggest chunks you can, just to get it done, and then sit it on the stove, boil it, and then come back. But in my case, I'm a stay-at-home housewife, so, and today being Monday, we really don't have a lot to do. So I'm still going to see if I can get these small enough that I can get most of them in one pot, so I don't have to cook more than one batch. But the way it's looking, I still have 2 in the sink and this half. So I'm going to end up having to do 2 pots or 2 batches, which I'll just do 2 batches. It's not going to hurt the potatoes any. They'll sit in the sink and be perfectly fine until I'm ready to do the next batch. So that's what we're going to do. I'll finish up this piece here, and then I'll show you how I fill the pot with water. And a trick, when I turn on the stove, I'll show you this trick that helps your pot from overboiling. And you're going to be like, what? There's a trick so that when you're boiling potatoes or pretty much anything, you do this one trick and it'll stop your stuff from overboiling and boiling out of the pan. I watched it. I learned it a long time ago, so I'm going to show you. Alright, now that I've got them chopped up in the pan, I'll show you. They're full of water. And this one trick is going to make all the difference in the world. So I turn this on, and I turn it up to like 7.5. But putting a wooden stick over the top of your pan will stop that water from boiling out. And that's that. So I'm going to go ahead and get this boiled. Then I'll come back and show you how I mash it and give it to the dogs. Now, sometimes it takes longer than others for your potatoes, sweet potatoes, to boil. It just depends on how many are in the pan, how big you cut the sweet potatoes, how big of a pot you've got. I mean, there's a lot of different variations. So, we're going to cook these, and I just basically sit here and let them boil. I bring the water to a boil. I let them boil until I come back and I stick a fork in them, and then when they're soft enough I can cut them with a fork. Then I know that they're soft enough for me to mash them. So that's basically all I do. So we'll be back in who knows how long to go ahead and show you what's next. Well, I just sat down and realized that this video is already almost a half an hour long. So I'm gonna cut this one, and then I'll do a part 2 when the sweet potatoes are done boiling and show you how I do things from there. So until you get to part 2, thank you for watching. Remember, you are someone, you do matter. I love you, and we will see you on the next video, part 2 of how to prepare sweet potatoes.